Hey everybody, welcome to our summer workshop, Restful and Productive. Today we're going to be talking about how to make the most of your summer in a way that glorifies God, but doesn't cause you to completely lose track of what it's all about, which is being faithful to the Lord. If you're new around here, my name is Reagan Rose. I run the ministry Redeeming Productivity, and I help Christians get more done for the glory of God. So welcome. Glad everyone could join us here live. If you're live, let us know. Say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're coming from. I'll be interacting with the chat here and there throughout, and at the end, I'll take some questions if you have them, and I'll request some interaction from you as we talk about some of this idea of gift goals. Okay, so let's dive into the meat of things here. I'm gonna throw up some slides here on the screen. Right, so we're talking about being restful and productive, which kind of sounds like an oxymoron, or it can, right? Like, how do you, as the subtitle suggests, stay on track while still enjoying your summer? How do you make sure that, hey, I need this rest, how do I get the rest that I need, but not like give in to like totally just forgetting about the whole reason God put you on this planet. Okay, so there's a little bit of tension there, and we're going to talk about that as we go through. So let me briefly just kind of outline the three things I want to try to cover with you in this workshop. First is I want to help us think more biblically about the subject of rest. This is something I just know so many Christians struggle with. We get this idea in our head sometimes, especially if you're productivity oriented like myself. We get this idea from the world that the only thing that matters is that we're go, 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 go. And rest is sort of a necessary evil just to get us so we can recharge to be more productive. But I want to speak a little bit today about the fact that rest itself actually is productive, and it's a gift from God that we should be enjoying, and that's actually enjoying it is a way to be productive with rest. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. I also want to help you just practically sort of clarify your mid-year priorities. July is the midpoint of the year, so maybe you had some goals you set in January, or maybe you had some quarterly goals you did if you came to our March workshop. You kind of have some different things you're working on, and as summer rolls around and the schedule maybe slows down a little bit, you're wondering, what do I do with this? Do I just press through and or do I ease up? Do I kick these down the road? We'll talk a little bit about strategies for that and thinking about the second half of the year. And then third, I want to help you, and this is sort of the main thing we're going to do today, is I want to help you design a gift goals plan. So we'll talk about this idea of gift goals. These are goals, but unlike traditional goals, they're a lot more low pressure. They're built around being intentional. They're built around rest, where the purpose of them is to enjoy something, but that intentionality helps you to make sure that the summer months don't just slip through your fingers without any sort of plan. You wonder, hey, I just frittered away the days. I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that, and I wasn't intentional about it. So we'll talk a little about that as well. The big picture thing I think about a lot is when I think about summer and this whole idea of it being halftime. I think it's such a helpful way to frame it, right? Halftime, if you ever played a sport, that is a time for both rest and recovery, but also looking at the second half, right? And so as we're at halftime in our year in the summer, we should do both of these things. We should be resting, we should be relaxed, we should be enjoying it, but we also should be, to some degree, thinking ahead about, hey, what about the rest of the year? Reevaluating a little bit. How did the first half go? And so I just don't think these two things are in competition as much as we think they are, right? We often feel this tension of, should I just push through and work harder, or should I take a break? Well, kind of both. Kind of both. Halftime is when you rest, collect yourself, and consider the second half. And so as summer is a season of rest, I want you to take that rest, but remember the game isn't over. And actually, I stumbled across something as I was preparing for this. I was thinking about this whole idea of halftime and what a helpful analogy it is, at least to me, to think about, hey, the game's not over, but I do need to rest. And I stumbled across these halftime speeches, and I was reading famous halftime speeches in sports history. And there's a lot of famous ones maybe you've heard of before, and even movies, you know, that's often a critical juncture in a sports movie, is that speech the coach gives to rally the troops at halftime to win in the second half. Well, I was reading about this one, and maybe you guys have heard of Newt Rockne. He was the coach for some time for Notre Dame. And they made a movie about his life, and specifically about a really famous halftime speech he gave called Newt Rockne All-American. It's from the 1940s. And in this speech, he's addressing the team of Notre Dame, and they are losing at halftime to the Army cadets. And they roll him in a wheelchair. He's retired at this point, but they bring him in because he's sort of a legendary coach. And he tells them this story about this quarterback named George Gipp, who had led Notre Dame some years ago to victory and then died shortly thereafter from pneumonia. And he tells the story of George Gipp's dying words. And if you've ever heard the expression, win one for the Gipper, this is actually where that came from. And I wanted to play the clip for you. I think it's a fun clip, but also it helps highlight something we can be thinking about as we approach the halftime of our year. So let me play that clip.
None of you ever knew George Gipp. It was long before your time. But you all know what a tradition he is at Notre Dame. And the last thing he said to me, Rock, he said, sometime when the team is up against it and the breaks are beating the boys, tell them to go out there with all they got and win just one for the Gipper. I don't know where I'll be then, Rock, he said. But I'll know about it. And I'll be happy. All right. Well, what are we waiting for?
So if you couldn't hear that, I know it was a little bit quiet. He's given this speech and telling them that this guy, George Gipp, the Gipper, the last words were, sometime when the boys are down bad and the breaks are beating them, tell them to just go out there and win one more for the Gipper. And that rouses the whole team up. That player number 12, he's like, what are we waiting for? Let's go get him. And they run out onto the field and they win it in the second half. Spoilers. And they take down the Army cadets in this excellent second half of football. And if you've heard that term, win one for the Gipper, before, you might have associated with Ronald Reagan, the president. If you know your history, during his campaign, they called him the Gipper because actually, if you watch that 1940s movie, he is the actor, is a young man who played George Gipp. So that's where he got that nickname. That's a bit of trivia for you. But the whole point, I just bring all that up, is that I want to help with that, hopefully, just by way of reminder, by going to the word here in a moment, that, hey, we're at halftime of the year. Let's not forget what it's all about. Let's rest, let's enjoy it, but let's not lose sight of the ultimate objective that we've been put on here by God to do, which is to glorify our Lord and Master, Jesus Christ. And to do that, I wanted to talk a little bit through a passage of scripture here that I just think is so relevant to. And that's 2 Corinthians 5. In this passage, this is the Apostle Paul writing, and he talks about this idea of our earthly home and our tent, and it's a little bit confusing. So I'm going to try to maybe give some rolling commentary as I read this. Let me get my face off the screen so you don't have to look at me while I read it. All right. So he says in 2 Corinthians 5, verse 1, he says, "For we know that if the tent that is our earthly home is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. What's he describing there? He's talking about our mortal bodies. This tent is our mortal bodies. I have this mortal body here. It's going to die. If it's destroyed, that's what he means. It's going to die. But I know that if I do die in my mortal body, I have a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. I have a heavenly home with God. Ultimately, as he talks about in 1 Corinthians 15, I will have a glorified body. And so just, you're like, how is this relevant to summer? Just pay attention, because you're going to see how this all comes together. My hope, my promise, the thing that motivates me is I'm looking forward to the fact that this isn't my home. There's something better coming. Verse 2, he says, for in this tent, speaking of our earthly mortal bodies, we groan, longing to put on our heavenly dwelling. Right? We're looking forward to a day when we are free from these sin-sick bodies, that we are free from the curse that is on our work that makes it toilsome and frustrating. And we're looking forward to a day when we have glorified bodies and we can serve God completely. Verse 3, if indeed by putting it off we may not be found naked. So now I mix this point here. Follow me through verse 4. For while we're still in this tent, we groan, being burdened, not that we would be unclothed, but that we would be further clothed, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. And what's he saying there? He's saying, not like the Gnostics would teach in the first century, these people that believed in this secret knowledge that taught that matter was evil, that these mortal bodies, they're actually evil. He's saying that's not the case. It's not that your mortal body's evil. It's not that we want to get rid of the physical body, but that we want, the way, what's this is so beautiful, that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. That we will receive glorified bodies. We will be in forever with our Lord, right? And not that we won't have bodies, but that they will be fixed, perfected. It's going to be wonderful. And that excites me. I don't know about you, but I think about that, about productivity on the new earth is something that excites me, is that how can I work and serve the Lord for all eternity without the toil, without the frustration, and have all the time in the world to do it. It just sounds wonderful. So verse 5, he says, he who's prepared us for this very thing is God, who's given us his Spirit as a guarantee, right? If you are a believer in Jesus Christ, you have the Holy Spirit indwelling you. One of the things the Bible tells us is that the Spirit is a seal. He's a guarantee. He's a down payment on those promises Christ has secured for us at the cross that are going to be ours in eternity. Okay, so hopefully you stuck with me through that. Here's the turning point. He goes on in verse 6, and here's where it's going to become relevant to what we're talking about today. He says, so that's all that, when he says so here, all that we just talked about, this looking forward to glorified bodies, eternity with Christ. So how do we respond? We are always of good courage. We know that while we are at home in the body, we are away from the Lord, right? While I'm on this mortal body, I want to be with Christ. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. I want to be present with him. But as long as I'm in this body, I'm going to be of good courage. Why? He also says in verse 7 there, for we walk by faith, not by sight, right? Instead of looking around at what's around us and getting discouraged by our circumstances, we look with the eyes of faith at what is to come. Yes, he says, verse 8, we are of good courage. And we would rather be away from the body than at home with the Lord. I want to be with the Lord, don't you? Right? But this is the critical thing that I wanted to draw your attention to. Verse 9. So whether we are at home or away, we make it our aim to please him. He's saying the goal for the Christian is going to be the same in heaven as it is here in these mortal bodies in this age on earth. And that's my aim, is to please God with my life. In every situation, whether it's in this age or the age to come, the goal doesn't change. I want to glorify him. And I look forward to the joy and the pleasure and the eternal rest that's going to come when I'm able to do that in perfection with him. But even now, the goal is still the same, to please him. Because, verse 10, for we all must appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each may receive what is due for what he has done in the body, whether good or evil. And then again, as the New Testament often does, it holds out eternal reward as this motivation to love and good works, that God sees what you're doing, that you in due season you'll reap if you do not give up, right? There's this big picture motivation. Okay, so hopefully you stuck through all of that. My point in sharing all this is that we want to be of this same good courage. We want to, as we step into these summer months, in this new season of life, wherever it's going on in your life right now, we want to hold out this hope and this aim of, I want to please God. I want to please God. I'm going to walk by faith in this season and please him. But the question is, and I think something where Christians can often go wrong is in this area of rest, which is in summer, for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere at least, tends to be a season of a little bit more rest. I know that might be the same for everybody and every situation. But how do we do that under the glory of God? Do I see it as a necessary evil I just got to rush through? Do I just put my nose to the grindstone and act like this isn't a season to ease up a little bit? No. One thing I've talked about a ton on here, if you guys have followed me for any amount of time, is this idea of stewardship, that your life is a stewardship. What is the little over which God has made you a steward? And I say often that I describe these different domains of stewardship we have, different areas of life he's told us to be faithful in. And that as I seek to please the Lord, as it says there in that verse we were just looking at, I do that in part by seeking to be faithful in my walk with him, certainly, but also in how I steward my mind, my physical body, my relationships, my vocation, my money and possessions, but also in my recreation. See, one of the domains I have up there that doesn't get addressed as often is the recreational domain. How do we rest to the glory of God? You ever thought about that? How do you rest to the glory of God? I think if you ask some Christians, they're going to tell you that you rest to the glory of God by not resting. They just do as little of it as possible. But this is a poor understanding of how the scripture talks about rest. Even our Lord said that the Sabbath wasn't made for, or man wasn't made for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made for man. Rest is a gift from God. A season of slowing down is something God is giving to you as a gift. It's not something to be kicked aside lightly and say, I don't really want that. I don't need that, Lord. This soldier's ready to keep going as fast as possible. No, you can rest to the glory of God. But how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you rest to the glory of God? And I would submit to you that one of the ways we do that is by enjoying the rest. Just enjoying it. That this summer you can be productive and restful by, we're going to talk about this in a minute, by having gift goals, which are pursued a little bit different than a normal goal is. Okay, so I'm going through this, guys. I'm just going to mention this. If you have questions in the chat or anything that you think might be helpful for other people, feel free to drop it in there. I'm keeping one eye on the chat as we go. But I want to say something more general about goals. I've described here, as we've been talking, that this idea with faithfulness in these different domains of stewardship, one of the things we're trying to do as Christians is close what I call the faithfulness gap. We look at that well done. I want to please the Lord, but I recognize that I'm here and well done, a life of faithfulness in these different areas of life is over here. What do I do to close that gap? Right? If you could picture the distance between right now and well done, that's the faithfulness gap. I'm not quite who I want to be, who I believe the Lord's called me to be. I'm not there with my spiritual disciplines. I'm not there with my stewarding my physical health. I'm not quite there yet with how I'm doing with my vocation. I'm not doing these things all faithfully. So what do? And I would submit to you that one thing a Christian can do is use goals, be intentional. Yes, it's the Spirit working through you. Yes, it's God who works in us both to will and to work for his good pleasure. But being intentional to say, how am I going to bridge this gap? What area of faithfulness am I going to attack in this season to try to get a little bit closer to that well done, get a little bit closer to I'm being more faithful in this domain? And cross the bridge. Okay. Let me know if that's making sense to you guys. Here's the big thing. As we think about rest, one thing I want you to keep in mind is that rest is a gift. And what you do with rest, hopefully your schedule slows down a little bit in the summer, I know mine does, is receive it. You receive a gift. That's what you do with a gift, right? And so we talked, if you guys came to my last workshop back in March, we talked about these 4 types of time, that there's different ways to be faithful with different types of time, right? When we think about Christian productivity, we often think about our to-do list, right? Our grit time. When we think about growth, your habits, maybe we think about goals, these projects you're working on. But I think one of the most neglected things in the Christian world is gift time. And there are areas of gift time during the week, but there's also seasons of gift time, which is what I would call summer, is that it is characterized, at least in some ways, by a little bit slower, a little bit more relaxed pace for most people. So what is gift time? That's the leftovers when work is done. It's your free time. It's your evenings. It's your weekends. It's the summer vacation. This is, as I said, the most overlooked category in all of time management. You read even a secular book on time management, very few people are going to tell you, and here's how you manage time during your rest. It kind of sounds insane actually to say that. It sounds like this whole total work model of like, why would I manage time during rest? Everyone knows how to rest. But I think that as Christians, one thing we can appreciate is that gift time, like all time, belongs to God and is a stewardship. There are ways to rest well to the glory of God, and there's ways to rest poorly. There are ways to have leisure that is high quality and God honoring, and leisure that is wasteful and actually less restful. And the trick for Christians isn't to neglect rest, but I think to be intentional about the way we take this gift of gift time and say, I'm going to use this for you, Lord. And that doesn't necessarily just be doing more stuff, but being slightly more intentional with how you spend this rest. And the biggest thing is having that attitude of, I want to glorify you through this. I'm going to do that, Lord, by receiving this as a gift, right? That attitude of thanksgiving. So we're going to talk, I see some questions about book recommendations on rest and recreation. There's one, it's a little bit more philosophical, I'd say, but it's Joseph Piper, maybe it's Joseph Piper, Pieper. And he talks about leisure. If you look up that, I have an article that links to it on my website. If you search redeemingproductivity.com for the word leisure, you'll find on there a couple of footnotes to some books that I found helpful on rest and recreation. But I wanted to speak to this question that came up here from Sean said, what are examples of how to rest that glorify God? I'm going to provide some of those actually in a little bit here. I have a slide on several different examples that I think you'll find helpful. But I will say this here just more generally, is a lot of it comes down to your attitude towards it. So I'm not saying video games bad or Netflix bad, for example, but the idea of you rest to the glory of God when you receive it with thanksgiving. So let me do this for a sec. Let me try to paint a picture here. What is the content of a Christian's productivity? Right? The world would say that productivity means getting more stuff done, right? Accomplishing more of X. In an ultimate sense, they might say productivity, the content of it would be, I made more money, I was more successful in my career, I was more popular, maybe I left a good legacy, something like that. I argue that the content of Christian productivity, biblically, is what we would term good works. Not that these contribute to your salvation in any way, but we see throughout the New Testament that what a Christian does that's being faithful is they produce the fruit in their lives of good works. As God is working through you, what comes out is good works. And good works are obviously, they're things like prayer, they're things like serving people, it's practicing the one another's in your church. But you also see it's a very broad category. And I think what unites good works is that they're anything done in faith. You can clean toilets to the glory of God, right? How do you do that? Colossians 3:23, when you do it as unto the Lord, it's a heart posture of, I'm doing this for God. So how does that apply to rest? My argument would be that you rest to the glory of God when you rest with a heart of thankfulness. Because is there any better good work than to worship God? And what a wonderful way to worship God than to simply say thank you. Do you see this? Like, I think this would like fundamentally like transform. If any of you have like guilt relationship with rest at all, this should blow that up. Think about that. You can sit outside on the back patio and stare at the trees and just say, thank you, Lord. That is productive. The world's going to tell you that's the opposite of productive. But I think biblically, you're worshiping God just by saying thank you for this moment of rest, Lord. Do you see what I'm saying? So a lot of it comes down to the heart posture. Now, we'll talk about a little bit more the differences, because I think there is sort of a scale of like the types of rest that is more restful and can help you cultivate that attitude of gratitude more readily. But I just wanted to pause there and say that because it's such a good question. And I know it gets a bit theological, but hopefully that's helpful to you guys. Let me know if that clarifies much. A big thing I talk about too often with gift time is with the strategy. You see I have that word division there at the bottom. What I mean by that is these different types of time. I kind of have these mathematical operators that go with each of them, and like addition, multiplication, subtraction. I say that gift time division is the strategy, because what you find, even with the history of leisure, right, that Joseph Piper book I mentioned, is that leisure historically has been something that you do in community. In our modern times, we outsource leisure through Netflix, through like we think rest means being completely alone and isolated. And I would submit to you that that is an anomaly historically. Most leisure has meant spending time with people. And the irony is a lot of us, especially if you're introverted like me, is like, I don't want to do that. That sounds not restful to me. But the interesting thing is, as Jesus said, it is more blessed to give than receive. And as you share your gift time with others, as you divide it, it's sort of like a fish and loaves situation. It becomes more restful and better the more you give of it to others and hold it with an open hand. And I think that when we look at some specific strategies in a minute, hopefully this will make some more sense to you. All right, good stuff. All right, I'm going to keep flying through here. I'll come peek back at your guys' comments in a second, but I don't want to get hung up for too long on one thing. All right, so one thing that's going to be helpful for you, I think, there's kind of two exercises to this workshop if you want to do them. The first one, you can just do this in your head, but if you have some goals that you had for the year, maybe you came to our January workshop or our March one and you set some goals for the quarter or for the year, and you're looking at those during the summer months and you're asking this question, do I just keep trying to do these goals? Do I push through? Do I use this to make up for lost time these summer months? What do I do with this? If I should be resting, what about all these goals that are kind of undone? And so one of the things I would encourage you to do after we get off of this, or if you can get a few minutes alone, is just pray over any unfinished goals and make some decisions about them. Ask the Lord for wisdom. James tells us that anyone who asks for wisdom, we know that we have it. And ask, should I keep doing this goal? Should I kind of press through with the summer? Like I have this goal that I've had on for walking 10,000 steps a day. I'm going to keep doing that during the summer because it's kind of restful for me anyway. I like going for long walks. But there's other goals I have that I'm going to pull back on. And you don't have to quit a goal. You can defer it. You can kick it down the road. You say, you know what? I'm going to focus on rest this summer. This goal I've been working on, I'm going to pick that back up in September. And in fact, in September, we'll do another one of these workshops that's called a post-summer productivity reset. And we'll help you kind of restart any goals, anything that's paused, and kind of finish the year strong. So that'll be a good reminder at that point. But I'd encourage you to do that. Think through what you're doing. If you want to continue, pause, etc. And I think a big thing that we got to remember as believers is that lightening the load, and what I mean by that is if you have too many commitments, too many goals, too many things going on, kind of easing up on that a little bit is an act of humility. Often we have this idea of I can do it all. I can finally catch up and I'll finally get ahead of everything. Guys, there's always going to be more to do. But having a little bit of humility rooted in this idea of, hey, I'm finite. I'm not God. I can't do it all. That's not necessarily failure. It's wisdom very often to say, I don't think I can do this right now, or I need a break from this. And so I'm just going to focus on resting a little bit in this season. That's okay. So we need to be reminded of this, unless the Lord builds the house, those who labor in vain, right? God doesn't need you to accomplish his purposes. He invites you blessedly to participate and be a part of the things he's doing in this world. I've been thinking a lot about this idea of how God providentially provides for every person on earth. You know, we pray, give us this day our daily bread. That very often we get to be the agents of providence in other people's lives through our vocation, through our neighborly acts, through how we love people. We're actually literally the hands and feet of God, Paul says, serving people. And so that's a wonderful privilege, but God doesn't need us. He invites us into that and uses us for that. And our participation in that is a wonderful gift. But sometimes we get so much pressure on ourselves that isn't helpful. So God's going to accomplish his work with us or without us. And so I think sometimes the best thing we can do is kind of ease back a little bit and say, okay, Lord, I'm gonna take a break right now, but we're gonna come back to this. Okay, so next thing we're gonna do, this will be the last thing we do here, guys, but I wanna talk about setting a gift goal for the summer, okay? And this is this idea of how do I receive this gift of a little bit maybe of a more relaxed schedule, which I think is true for a lot of us. I know it not for everybody. How can I use this well? But before I do that, I just want to check on the chat a little bit. I saw some stuff coming in. Contentment is key. Absolutely. Someone asked about artistic activities. Yes, I'm going to give some examples of that too, and we'll talk more about that too. Man, Casey, I love what you said, how to practically do the rest as a Christian when everyone at home thinks rest is watching TV and scrolling the phone. When I say it's a time to steward, they think I'm insane. Man, I think we are birds of a feather, Casey. I'll talk a little bit more about that too, about how to invite other people into higher quality rest and leisure, and that you can actually be the catalyst for that in your friend group or with your family of saying, hey, let's make better use of this time, not meaning we need to work more, but just be more intentional with it. So I'll give some examples here in just a second. As someone said, I struggle with feeling that I have time for true rest. Yeah, I know that is one of the hard things living in this accelerated pace of culture that we're in. And that I think is a reason all the more that we have to plan for high quality rest. If we just wait until there's leftover time, urgent things are always going to creep in and kind of eat that time up. And so one of the things having a gift goal can help you do is actually set aside some time in advance. Say, oh yeah, I actually already have plans. So that can't get eaten up by the grit time or by this urgent thing. That's already on the calendar. TL says at 4 weeks postpartum, I'm feeling tired of rest since that was all my third try. And now this maternity leave, I'm dying to be more productive when I'm in a season where rest is required. I think this will be helpful for you as well, because this type of rest is that wonderful balance. These gift goals, I mean, is that wonderful balance of I'm being intentional and so you get that nice sense of progress, but also I'm not like whipping myself to like, it's just less intense. All right, so let's talk about these gift goals. This is what you came here for. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to share one more verse with you. We have time for this. This is something I've been thinking about a lot. I think I've talked about this in recent videos. Just this idea of God loving to give us good gifts. I just think we can get this idea that, especially in like when we're thinking about productivity, that God's kind of like breathing down your neck to do more, do more, do more, do more. And that is an anti-grace attitude. Like I've been saying, God invites us into the stuff he's doing, but also God invites us to rest and to enjoy good things. This passage here in Matthew 7, let me get my face off the screen so you can read it. He says, or which of you, if his son asks him for bread, will give him a stone, or if he asks for a fish, will give him a serpent. If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who's in heaven give good things to those who ask him? God is our Father. He loves to give us good things. He loves to give us, yes, even seasons of rest. And those good gifts, the way you receive those isn't, let me try to say this carefully. We often use this expression, hey, we're blessed to be a blessing, like Abraham was. And that's true. God blesses us so that we might divide that blessing. As I said, the strategy of division, share it with others. But sometimes we think of this like instrumental thing, that I'm just sort of like God's hitting the volleyball to me, and I'm just gonna, set it for the next person to spike it. I'm just trying to hot potato with the blessings. God gives it to me, and I pass it down the line like it's a bucket brigade of blessings. But part of the blessing is to enjoy it with thanksgiving to God, and then share it also with others. These aren't mutually exclusive things. Paul even says this when he gives instructions to the rich in 1 Timothy 6. He tells the rich people, or tells Timothy to tell the rich people in the congregation there at Ephesus that they should be generous, but also that God gives us all things richly to be enjoyed. And so I think one of the takeaways from that is he's telling even them, they should enjoy this. God's blessed them with this money more than most people had. And so that means they have this extra stewardship to share it, be generous, but also they have this extra stewardship to enjoy that as well. And in each of us, the lot of life God gives us, part of our stewardship of that, part of our worship is to say thank you. And that's it. Thank you. All right. Sermon over. Maybe. Sermon on pause. I got more stuff to share with you. All right. So gift goals this summer. What does this look like? Let me define a gift goal for you. A gift goal is a low-pressure, soul-feeding, intentionally slow goal. It's not as focused on the outcome as a normal goal. It's not like a race to the finish line. Some of these, you're not even going to finish them. Let me get more specific. Gift goals are different from ordinary goals in that they are about being, not just doing. They're about enjoying, not just accomplishing. So let me give you some examples. I threw a few up on the screen, but I'm going to try to I came up with a huge list of these. And so I'm going to give these, hopefully they spark some ideas for you. And if you have some gift goals for the summer, or if any of these lists that I read out resonate with you, please share it in the chat. I think that'll inspire other people as well. What's a gift goal you want to pursue this summer? Maybe it's just reading a novel for pleasure. No notes or highlighters or trying to put it in your knowledge management system, just reading it for enjoyment. Maybe it's slowly rereading a book that was formative for you spiritually, that was really helpful for you and shaped your faith, just rereading that slowly. I know for me, many years ago when I was a college student, I read Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, and that was so formative. I come back to that every few years. I think I've read it a dozen times by now. I love rereading that, and that's just restful for me, but it's intentional, and it kind of reminds me of those things. Another one, what if you just sit outside in the morning with your coffee in a little bit of silence and prayer and just thinking before the day starts? It's no big thing about like, I got 5 minutes for this, 5 minutes for that, 5 minutes. No, just like sit there for a little while and just enjoy and pray as it comes. Maybe you plant a garden, a cutting garden, and you learn to arrange flowers. Maybe you take a day trip somewhere new. You make some plans to go fishing or hiking or swimming or camping or something like that. And you just sort of in advance, you put it on the calendar. I want to do this thing. I don't know about you, but many times the summer passes by and I was like, I had all these ideas for the summer and I never did them. A gift goal is just putting that on the calendar and making sure it happens. Maybe it's creative projects. You start a commonplace book or a journal, maybe even wanting to get into scrapbooking or something. Now's a great time to do it. Maybe you want to do sketching, or someone talked about art. Maybe you want to do watercolors or try something new. And you're like, oh, but how do I do this effectively and efficiently? You don't. Art isn't efficient. You just take your time, and don't just do it for the gram. Do it because it's enjoyable. Do it as an act of worship unto the Lord. Do it as a way to rest and receive this time as a gift. Maybe you want to get into cooking, or you're already into cooking, and maybe get a cookbook of summer recipes that sound fun and just work your way through that. So I'm going to try to do one of these a week. No pressure, but you just pick one that looks good and work your way through that. You're becoming better at cooking and handling food and all that, and it's just something you enjoy, but you're being intentional. Maybe you buy an old piece of furniture off Facebook Marketplace and you restore it. Maybe you learn a new song on the guitar. Maybe you try to pick up piano for the first time. You work your way through a program to learn that. Maybe you say, I want to be more intentional about sharing my gift time. I want to be more hospitable. But again, like time just flies by. I enjoy having people over, but I forget about it. And this is something my wife and I have been more intentional about in this last year of, hey, we want to have people over. So if I wait until, Tuesday at 5 p.m., I'm too tired and we haven't made plans yet. But a gift goal is saying, I'm going to do this intentionally. I'm going to send out some texts. I'm going to send some invites. I'm going to get them on the calendar. And we can get those on the books so we can do 1 or 2 of those a month before the end of summer. Be hospitable, have people for dinner. Maybe something with, if you have family. Our family just started a read aloud thing with our kids. We're reading through the Chronicles of Narnia out loud to our kids, and it's super fun. The whole family sitting together, listening to these books. They're so fun to read through. And I'm hearing them again. My wife's doing the reading, and I'm hearing the stories I read when I was a kid, and she's getting to reread the stuff she read as a kid, and the kids are all loving it. So those are just some ideas. And the common thread with all of these is that gift goals are things that you want to do, not just things you have to do, but they're pursued slowly with enjoyment and thanksgiving as the point, but you're intentional with it. That's the big idea. That's a gift goal. And so I'd encourage you to do is brainstorm a gift goal or 2 for the summer. It doesn't have to have a deadline even. Just say, I'm going to try to do this, and wherever appropriate, put it on the calendar, or go pick up that cookbook or buy that book you want to reread or whatever it is, and just take a next step and do that with enjoyment as unto the Lord. And where appropriate and where helpful, share it with other people, invite other people into that, because that gift of gift time, it is more blessed when it is given than just when it's received. So sharing that is also helpful. All right, I want to hear you share in the chat. I think some of you already are. Share in the chat any ideas for gift goals. I'm not asking you to commit to anything by sharing this in the chat, but anything that like resonates with you, or if this spurred an idea, or maybe you already had a gift goal in mind, please share that in the chat, as I think that'll be encouraging to other people. I'm going to scroll through here, the chat a little bit, and see anything that anyone's shared. Jen mentioned doing more reading. That's a way that she was, I think, responding to TL. If she could go back to that time where she was postpartum, more reading, that's a productive kind of rest. I agree with that. It's kind of cool. If you think about that domains of stewardship thing, some types of recreation kind of hit other areas of that. For example, reading is a great type of recreation that also stimulates the intellectual domain, helps you sharpen your thinking. Similarly, going for like a walk or something, or even if you like to run, which I don't know why anyone would like to run, but like that's a way where you can be pursuing that as a recreation thing, something you do in your off hours, but it's also helping your physical body. So I think anywhere where you can kind of like double or triple dip in those different domains are kind of helpful ways that are restful, but also productive in another way. You don't have to do that. It's just, it feels kind of cool to do it, I guess. Let's see what else we got. Writing short stories. I love that. That's so good. Reading and scrapbooking. Yes. Craft projects from Dollar Tree. Low cost, low pressure. Absolutely. That's super fun. I think it's more important to be bored in a sense compared to binging movies and such. Yeah, I think that's a great point, Timothy. It helps sometimes to just chill, and it gives you time to think. Thinking is an activity. It's one probably a lot of us neglect. Let me switch this camera thing. I think I can show these on the screen. Yeah, that's probably hard to read for you guys. I don't know why the font's all weird. Sorry. But this says nature journaling. John Muir Laws has awesome videos, and a nature journal sketchbook with built-in how-tos requires you to look at God's creation. Yeah, absolutely. That's huge. Even birding. I know some of this stuff sounds like weird, but like one of the things that's sort of like died in our generation of digital entertainment is like old school hobbies. Like it's super cool to go and like look at God's creation. That is entertaining in a richer, more high quality way than sort of the passive way that we kind of, when we're feeling really tired and worn out, we just default to the easiest thing, which is jump on my phone. But if you plan a little bit ahead, you get more rest out of it, more enjoyment out of it. It's not about doing more. It's about that the actual rest is higher quality. Cooking, someone mentions. Watercoloring, Jen says. Yeah, absolutely. What else, guys? I'm just reading some of these that you guys have shared. What else ideas for gift goals you guys might have? Yeah, Sean says, I'm thinking about taking a day trip to somewhere new, but I know driving is tiring for me, so need to find a balance there. One thing we found helpful, my family and I, is there's people that like curate like activities to do in your local area. We found stuff all around us in Southeast Michigan that we never knew about. And that's one thing we've done. So you don't have to, I'm just saying that because you don't necessarily have to drive super far depending on where you live. There's sometimes stuff happening at your library or at your local park, or even like if you like to walk at all, like I do, like there's trails I've never heard about that I'm always finding. And that kind of exposure to new stuff is great and relaxing. Knitting. I see hiking and fishing. I like to garden with an audiobook. Me too. I've really been enjoying, we have a new garden back there. If you guys watch my videos, I showed it in the last one. That's really relaxing to me. And it's fun to like, a lot of times I'm out there with nothing in my ears, but sometimes it's fun to listen to an audiobook or a podcast. Explore different local parks. Great idea. Planning rest. This is so wise, game changer. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so funny because when you think about it, it's so obvious that like, yeah, if I want to do stuff that's more fun, more relaxing, I need to plan ahead, because otherwise I'm just going to do the default behavior. I'm just going to do the thing that's easiest. So planning helps you do that in a helpful way, I think. Nice. Okay. So let me say this. Where are we? I'm going to show you the slides again. Here's a big picture thing, takeaway. I want to kind of plant in your head. Summer is not a break from your calling. Okay, I know my face is covering that. It says calling behind my head. Summer is not a break from your calling. It is part of it. It's part of it. Our aim is still to please God. That's like we said at that verse at the start. But you can please Him by enjoying rest as a gift with gratitude. And so my encouragement to you is to receive this season as a gift from God, enjoy it with thanksgiving unto Him, and be open to sharing that with others. I think that is where the real richness of the joy comes, is when you divide the gift time and you share it with other people, invite them into that. It becomes a double blessing for sure. Now, we do have a resource on this if you want. We have like quarterly planning worksheets. For me, for summer goals, I don't know. I haven't written mine down yet. I probably will at least write the goal down, but part of me is like, maybe it's a little antithetical to this idea of having a slower pace, to be really meticulous about tracking it. But to be honest, I probably will still end up tracking mine because that's just how I'm wired. But if you go to redeemingproductivity.com/quarterly, there's a little PDF there, and you can print off that worksheet, and it just gives you a little way to like track. You could write down your gift goal, and basically it'll help you think through it and plan out how to spend the next 12 weeks on that goal. So if you want it, that's there. It's just a little free resource for you. And then also, I see some good questions coming in the chat. I'm going to get to those in just a second. And also, this is a good time too. I always have to mention this, is we have our program, the Redeeming Productivity Academy. Summer's also a good time for that. I have some different learning thing I'm going through on my own for other online learning things. I'm trying to work on my guitar playing and stuff. Summer's a good time for that. That's actually a good leisure activity that's sort of productive, is trying to educate yourself in some way. And so if you want some accountability on your goals, you want to learn productivity from a Christian worldview, we have a full program for this if you don't know. It's called Redeeming Productivity Academy. It involves a community that'll help you stay on track with your goals. Anybody in the chat who's an RPA member, give us a shout out. Let us know if you're a member of the Academy already and if you enjoy it. But this is a great way to do that with other Christians who are productivity minded, but also want to be rooted in Scripture. And the big thing is it includes this 9-week program that teaches you everything about personal productivity from a worldview. And so what would be cool, I think some of you, if you're interested in doing this, would be to go through this during the summer, kind of take your time. It's self-paced, so you don't have to do it in 9 weeks. You can kind of ease that out, or you can go faster. They're video lectures with exercises. But imagine walking into the fall with like a complete plan for productively managing your life to the glory of God, kind of taking this halftime break to be like, okay, here's what I'm going to execute in the second half of the year. This sort of gives you a game plan for that. And that's all included in the Academy. And then I do have a bonus just for today. For those of you who are on the call, we have a new planner out, the hardcover version of our Waypoints planner, which again is behind my head. That one you can get for free. It's a $38 value. If you sign up for the Academy before midnight tonight, you get that for free. It's $38 value. If you sign up for a monthly membership to the Academy, it's $35. So basically you get this thing at a discount, even if you cancel, or even we have a 30-day refund policy if you're like, this isn't for me after you try it. But I'd encourage you to check it out. And if that's helpful for you, I know a lot of folks have gone through there. We have over 500 people in there right now, current members, and we've had thousands go through this program. And so we've refined it. And I think it's useful. I'm trying to make it useful for you guys and do it in a way that hopefully for most people can be affordable. But check it out, redeemingproductivity.com/academy. And if you have any questions, drop those in the chat. I'll answer those as well. But let me jump back to some of these questions. I'm going to answer any questions you guys have about rest stuff, about gift goals, and any questions about the Academy as well. But if you were just here for the content part of this, you're like, I'm not interested in the questions. Thus concludes the restful and productive seminar. Now we're just going to go to Q&A time. So if you want to hop off now, feel free. Take advantage of that free goal planner offer if you want to. But otherwise, thanks for coming. Okay, let's deal with some questions. Drop them in the chat if you have any questions or anything that might be helpful, you think, for people. Playing with Lego. I think that's a fun one. Lego is fun. My boys love Legos, and it's been like probably way more fun for me than for them getting back into Lego, doing that myself. So I've really enjoyed doing that with the kids, and we've got some good sets we're gonna be working on this summer. This is a good question. Why do we not default to rest from productivity? This is like a huge thing. I'm actually working on a new book right now that in part is going to be talking about this. I think it's kind of in the air we breathe. Sort of post-industrial revolution, this whole total work mindset that we have is not good. And we've equated our value, even as people, with what we produce in this world, which is antithetical to the Christian message. You are an image bearer of God. You have value just by virtue of that. You are, if you're a Christian, bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Your work isn't what makes you valuable. It's not an act of self-actualization to be productive. But I think we get it in our heads because that's how the secular world implicitly sort of shows us. You're valuable because of what you can produce. And if you can't produce, you're not valuable. So we get this idea that rest isn't productive, so it doesn't matter. Productive. But I think we have to re-center ourselves on this idea of, I'm a Christian, I'm under grace. I don't have anything to prove to anyone because Christ is my righteousness. He's my standing before God. My identity is in him. And so I can rest and actually relax and enjoy that it's a gift from God, knowing he's paid it all. And I can work with gusto in all of his strength that he works through me for his glory. And all of these things, all these different aspects of my life can be done to the glory of God. And they're all valuable as ways to glorify God. Yeah, I think it's definitely an issue of our modern times. Secret Scarlet said, how do you go from planning to actually doing it? Hang on, I got a cough here. Yeah, I think if you use that worksheet at redeemingproductivity.com/quarterly, that sort of like forces you through a planning process and then into executing. But planning, I think, is the first step. Get it on the calendar, get sort of a rough goal in mind, and then just start doing it. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we do need to schedule in a restful time or we won't do it. It will get eaten up. That grit time thing I talked about, it's like a gremlin. It will eat up every type of time it can. The urgent stuff in your life, that's grit time. The stuff that's just like always like fires you're putting out. If you don't plan for your goals or for your growth or for your gift time, everything will eventually be consumed by grit time. It's the weeds in the garden of our schedule. and it wants to eat everything up. And so the way to fight back, the way to set some boundaries is by saying, no, this time is for rest, which sounds antithetical to rest, but I just think that's what we have to do. Otherwise we everything just kind of gets blended together. Or we have this guilt sense about it. The Green Ember and the Wing Feather Saga are both great family reads. Good recommendations. I have the Wing Feather Saga. We're planning to do that probably next year with the kids as they get a little older, but I haven't heard of Green Ember. I'll check that out. Thanks, Mike. Another question. How do we balance how much to rest and how much to be productive? I feel like I need to spend every second of my life sharing the gospel with others in some way. Man, Sean, that's such a huge, important question. I think a lot of this comes down to how we think about God's sovereignty, that he's in control. And that doesn't mean that we don't evangelize, but there is sort of a peace that comes when we understand that God is working through me. My part in all of this isn't to carry all of this burden for every lost soul on my own shoulders, but to be used by God as he will use me. And different seasons of life come with different levels of our ability to give our energies to that. I think when I was a young man, I did campus ministry, and we did evangelism every single week, just cold evangelism with people. As I got older, my evangelism and my Christian ministry ended up being more centered on my church and my own family, as my schedule was consumed more with family stuff and other responsibilities. I think of the Apostle Paul's life, that he did all these missionary journeys, incredibly effective evangelist, incredibly productive in the terms of doing all these journeys. But in the latter part of his life, he spent that in prison, and he took that season as a different stewardship. And he wrote these letters, some of which turns out were inspired by God and became our scriptures. And the reason I share that is I think a lot of us feel that when we're not doing something that's externally productive or doesn't seem like it's producing immediate results, we feel like, oh, nothing's happening. But part of what we can do is just trust the Lord that if I seek to be faithful with the season that I have, maybe I don't have the ability to go and do all of these things because I have other responsibilities right now. If I seek to be faithful in that, God's going to use it. And I think what Paul probably did not know, or could not know, is how much this season where he probably felt trapped. I mean, literally, he was trapped in prison, but he wanted to be going to the churches and visiting them, and he's like, all I can do is write letters. But in God's providence and his sovereignty, he used that seemingly smaller work of writing letters to reach billions of Christians throughout history. And more than I'm sure Paul could even comprehend, more than he could have reached just on his own missionary journeys. So I just share all that. You have this heart of, Lord, just use me in this season how you will. And if this season I'm limited in some way or have other responsibilities competing, help me to just do that well and use that how you will, Lord. And often it's different than how we think it will be. Timothy says, the world's leveled up its ability to distract, so we need to be more intentional about rest. Man, that's like, I kind of want to make like one of those quote graphics of that, Timothy. That's so good. That is so good. It is. I think our response to the distracting nature of the world we live in now has to be, I got to be more intentional about not being distracted. It's just, I got to fight back against it. If I just kind of go along, I'm going to be distracted because that's the world I live in. And so having a gift goal is planting a flag in the ground and saying, here is where I'm going to rest and pull back from that stuff. A question from Casey. He says, I'm a student and I have an exam in October and I have to study, but I don't have school and I don't go to college until next January. So I have a long kind of rest time. How do I steward this? I'd say a couple of things, Casey. One of those is enjoy it. Like we've been talking about, spend that time in rest. Cause listen, like one thing you want to do before a big, huge thing that you know is going to be taxing, a season of not like the opposite of rest, is kind of prepare yourself for that by resting. But I think you can also prepare to look ahead, and as far as you can get syllabi ahead of time, or if you can figure out reading lists, it can help to kind of make and smooth out that schedule that's going to hit you like a ton of bricks when it all comes later on. So be prepping for that, but also just be enjoying the time. Be like, this is a season to rest and enjoy, because it's going to be hard for a while coming up. Hey, Timothy, I see your message about wanting to connect at some point. Yeah, please just drop me an email. My email is just reagan@redeemingproductivity.com, REAGAN at redeemingproductivity.com. I'd love to connect. Casey also asked, how can I educate my family on stewarding rest because our family is a pastor family, but we don't get the rest idea a lot? How can I help everyone not to be on phone and TV all the time? This is really hard, Casey. Like I know like you and I think are on the same page on this. And I wouldn't have believed this if someone told me. Like I am introverted, I am. And like that whole thing of like being around people, it does drain me in some way. But that book I read, the Joseph Piper one I keep coming back to, this one on leisure, and how like basically leisure is historically was spending time with people. Like just think about what you would do before there was Netflix, before there was your phone. What would you do if you were bored? You'd go hang out with the neighbors. You'd call a friend and go do something together. And I am convinced that that type of rest, at least especially with people that we really know well, is, even if you're an introvert, ends up being better for you in the long run. And I don't mean like medicine. I mean, it's more restful. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like if I scroll on the internet or watch a bunch of Netflix shows, I don't feel more rested afterwards. I feel more restless. And I feel like that's one of the things with digital distraction is it kind of lures us in with this bait of, oh, you need a break, you need to rest. And then you get deep into it and you're like, that wasn't restful at all. Now I just feel anxious. And that I just don't get that same feeling of ickiness when I spend time with people doing things together. And maybe it is watching a movie together, but there's something about being with people that produces a rest in us and an enjoyment that I just think is higher quality and richer. And it's the same way I think about food, like junk food, like it fills your stomach, but then maybe makes you feel gross afterwards. That's what like the low quality leisure does. But like a really nice, high quality meal of like a steak and asparagus or something like that, like it fills your stomach. It's a lot more work to make, but in the end, you're more happy that you did it. You're more well nourished. And I think we're more well rested a lot of times with higher quality leisure stuff, which often means getting outside of our bubble and being with people. So I don't know how that helps you, Casey. That's how I've been thinking about it. And I think one of the best ways to help other people think that way, if you're already trending that way, is to invite people into that. Be that catalyst for change in your family or with other people. Plan some stuff. Be like, hey, guys, we're going to the lake today, or whatever it is. And let people learn from experience to that, hey, this actually is restful. Let's see. We've got more stuff here. Sorry, if I'm skipping any of yours, guys, there's just a lot of them trying to catch up with current. This is a good question. How do I balance learning productivity when me and my spouse might not be on the same page? Yeah, people are wired different ways. It doesn't have to look the same for everybody. People often like say to me, they're like, you should have your wife on the podcast. You should talk about what productivity looks like in her life. I'm like, she is not wired like me at all. She takes things as they come, and she is very productive, but it doesn't look the same as I do. She's not interested in productivity the same way I am, but she's still very productive. So one way I like to think about it is some people are sort of just like naturally given to this stuff, and they just do the stuff that needs to be done just naturally. People like me, the reason I'm interested in productivity isn't because I'm naturally good at it, it's because I'm naturally bad at it. I'm kind of lazy by nature. And so I'm kind of seek to have this more structure to my life to undo some of my natural tendencies, some bad habits I learned in youth that the structure is helping me to overcome those. So that's one aspect of it. But also I think that not being heavy-handed, especially with a spouse or something about this, you can kind of just be like, this is the thing I need to do, have a frank conversation about it. I need to be a bit more structure about this stuff, and just accept that they might not have the same kind of structure as you. That might lead to some tension, but just like anything in marriage, it's just a lot of communication, a lot of talking about what your heart is behind it can be helpful there. So I don't know. I know I have to speak in generalities because I don't know your exact situation, but hopefully there's something in there that can be helpful. Jasmine says, I'm now 2 weeks into RPA, and it's been so helpful and manageable. Thank you. Thanks, Jasmine. Welcome. Glad you're there. Glad you're finding it helpful. Manageable is key. I wanted to highlight that is With the reason it's a 9-week program, you could blast through this much faster than that, but we want people to take it slow so you actually apply the stuff. It's not a knowledge dump. It's just like, here's a bunch of ways to be productive. We don't need that. What we need is to apply it. So we take you by the hand and walk you through, how do you actually set up a to-do list manager thing? How do you set good goals? How do you create a good morning routine for yourself and build it and make it stick as a habit? And it's not just the how, but we show you and take you through each week, and you're actually building those habits as you go. Thanks, Jasmine. Man, Rick, great point. Jesus went away from the needy crowds to rest and spend time with God. He absolutely did. I think it's so interesting. I did a video a couple months ago on Jesus, how he managed time. And you look at the life of Jesus and you're like, nobody could say this guy wasn't productive, obviously. But also, even with his crazy pace, he would go away to spend time with God. He would leave the crowds and go and rest. He would, it was it's just much more. The word I always come back to is humane. I think there's a vision of time management that Christians should embrace that is, at once has some structure, but not so overly structured that we don't leave any room for divine appointments or any room for rest. I think there's a way we've sort of mechanized personal productivity in the world, and we've taken that and said, I need to operate like a machine. And it's like, no, God wants you to operate like a human. That's why he made you a human, not a robot, right? And that means rest. That means sometimes going slower. That means sometimes embracing blessed inefficiency. TL says, my sister calls it being distractions, Satan's lullaby. That's so good. I saw another one from Corey Ten Boom. I've shared this quote before. She says, if the devil can't make us bad, he'll make us busy. I mean, isn't that just basically the same thing? If you want to be ineffective as a Christian, you don't need to be the worst sinner in the world. You just need to be so busy with the things of the world that you become like a Martha, busy, 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 when there's just one thing that's necessary. My takeaway is please God by enjoying rest as a gift, resting with gratitude. I'm recovering from burnout and fatigue, so this is so meaningful. Oh, praise God. I'm glad to hear that this is helpful to you. I'm sorry you're going through a season of burnout. I've been through them myself too. And it's hard because you feel the guilt. You're like, oh, I'm not doing what, but that's exactly what you need to do, is get a new appreciation for your finitude, for your humanity, for, hey, it's productive to rest to the glory of God and just say, thanks God, and just take this season as a time out. Jen says, is watching something like this or learning about classical education or homemaking rest? I like to sit at home at the end of the day and do some of that learning and watching. I think so. I'm kind of a curious person by nature. So for me, a lot of the rest I do, even with reading, is nonfiction books. I'm learning about something. You're like, Bill, that's not rest, that's studying. I mean, for me, it's not. I'm enjoying it. And so stuff like this, I do think I find it restful. I think learning about new things kind of, it's a little bit, it's productive and restful at the same time to get educated about something that you want, some area that you want to learn more about or an area you want to improve in. So I count it. Let me put this on the screen. What mindset helps when it is time to rest that allows you to actually stop, even though you always have things to do? This is a great question. I love this. This is where scheduling, I think, is helpful, because if you don't have sort of a plan for your day and your weeks, it like I've said before, that grit time will eat everything up. This is especially hard for people who have more self-directed schedules. Maybe you're a student or an entrepreneur or a pastor, someone in ministry, where you kind of it's easier for work to bleed outside of the normal work times. You know what I'm saying? And so having some sort of plan where I'm going to cut out at 5 p.m. That, knowing that in advance, scheduling in advance, saying I'm done doing stuff at this time, gives me, at least it serves to me, a little signal to, okay, you fulfilled your obligations. You followed the plan. You were faithful to working in the amount of time that you were supposed to work today. Now it's the faithfulness in the evening hours looks like spending some time resting, spending some time in the garden, spending some time with the family. This is just my case. Like, and like, I don't have to feel guilty about that because I understand that part of my day that was given to work was already done. Do you get what I'm saying? So I think like, if you haven't watched my March, what is this called? Workshop. If you go look at my YouTube channel and look under live, you'll see one from March that talks about scheduling your week. Take a look at that one. It talks about scheduling the goal, grit, gift, and grow time into your schedule. Having some kind of loose plan like that helps a ton with the guilt. Just signal to yourself, no, it's not grit time anymore. Now it's gift time, and helps you to rest. A couple more here. How would you? Ooh, this is good. Life's Voyage with Whitney says, how would you advise a person slowly come out of a career sabbatical in this season, balancing the summer and starting to work on vocational goals mid-year? Oh, that's really good. Yeah, you want to be easing back into things, right? But I would, if I was just to give you some advice, and all I know is your question here, Whitney, but I would say your sabbatical hopefully has been somewhat a season of rest already. And so as you come into the summer, might be the time to start transitioning out of the season of rest and into the season of prep. Okay, let's get all the pieces lined up. Let's get a plan together. Let's build out the calendar. Let's plan the goals. What are the milestones? What are we aiming at come the end of summer? And so that you can still sort of rest and relax a little bit through the summer, but you're spending this time readying yourself because you know the whistle is going to blow and things are going to start to accelerate probably around August, September. And having all that laid out means you're going to be able to jump into that, not feeling flat-footed, not feeling like you just went from 0 to 60 in half a second, and like it's this whiplash from going to summer to that. So I would encourage you spend some time prepping, and that'll sort of ease you out of that transition into be more active again. Timothy says, it's productive to rest. For my natural lazy self, that feels like I need to stamp it somewhere. Yeah, same here. We need reminding. Oh, this is a good one. Thanks for this. You're welcome. I just got laid off, so I'm going to rest, but I'm already antsy. I feel like I'm not contributing to society or family. God has proven his faithfulness by providing stuff. Praise God for that. And I'm sorry you're in the season where it is, man, it's hard when you're looking for work and you're like, what's next? But I have some friends who are going through layoffs right now, and one of the things we've talked about is that the Lord has been teaching them reliance on him. This is a season of trial for you, to be honest. Yes, it's restful because you're like, well, I'm kind of looking for the next thing. But in the back of your mind, you're like, what if I can't find anything? Well, what if this runs out? What about my savings? What about this? And I get that. Those are real things. But it's a great season to be in prayer a lot. That's a great way to rest, by the way, casting your anxieties on him because he cares for you, and asking for wisdom for the next season. But it's just a neat time because a trial makes you aware of your dependence on God. I've always thought this, we're all dependent on God, but especially with employment things, we're not aware of how dependent we are on him when we're gainfully employed and everything feels steady. It feels like everything's steady beneath us. But even in that, God's the one who's providing for your needs. And so the same God who provided for your needs in that job that you've been laid off from, he's going to provide for your needs in whatever the next thing is for you. Your job is to trust him, to rest, take this season. I think part of it is a season of rest, but also be diligent to look for the next thing. But your job is not to be anxious about it, to worry about it, to fret. It's to do what needs to be done, to be faithful to search out the next thing, but all the while asking for him to help cultivate that attitude of contentment and of trust and of peace that the Lord is going to provide for me. Yeah. World of Pendragon says, have you ever run into productive unproductivity where you distract yourself with various other tasks to avoid the big one you feel you should be doing? I may actually be an expert at productive unproductivity. I've heard people talk about like productive procrastination. It's so easy. I think it's really easy to sort of get into like tuning systems and being like, I'm going to set up this huge dashboard in Obsidian or Notion, or I'm going to build out this great bullet journal thing. And once that's done, then I'll be ready to be productive. But all you're actually doing is like avoiding the thing you need to be doing. Dude, guilty, big time here. That is hard. I think that all of us kind of realize when we're doing that. At least I am. I'm kind of like self-aware a little bit, hopefully enough to when I start to do that, or I'm like, I know I'm just avoiding the big thing. And one of the things with procrastination is, I've heard it said before that procrastination is your brain telling you don't have a plan. And when we have some big thing that we don't want to deal with, that's when we sort of chase productive procrastination or other forms of it. And one of the best things you could do is stop yourself and ask this question. I actually ask this question myself all the time. What am I avoiding? What am I avoiding? And when you ask yourself that question, it often jumps to mind because it is sort of the elephant in the room. And when you can isolate, what is the thing I'm avoiding that's making me want to procrastinate, even if it's productive procrastination? Once you can figure out what that is, then what you need to do to overcome the procrastination is make a plan of attack. Say, okay, so what is this? What is this thing? Maybe I'm avoiding, I have this big, project coming up and I'm just putting it off. And so when I isolate that that's the thing I'm avoiding, that means that's the thing you need to attack. And the way you attack it is you turn it over to the Lord in prayer and say, Lord, I need to be doing this. I know it's responsible for me doing this. I'm scared of it. It's this big, hairy mess. I don't know where to start. Turn it over to the Lord and then start making a plan. Okay, the first thing I need to do is I need to go read all the documents about it. And then I'm going to figure out the first step of that. And then just slowly start making a plan of attack. And before you know it, you can just, this thing that seems big and scary and that you want to procrastinate about becomes a lot more manageable once you have like 3 steps. You're like, okay, these are the 3 next steps I need to take. I can do that. And you kind of steer away from the productive or otherwise type of procrastination and actually start attacking the real problem, the real thing, which is the thing you're trying to avoid. I appreciate the thanks. Appreciate it, guys. My pleasure. Appreciate all the gratitude. Praise God. Yeah, I see several people in the chat saying that they're looking for work. Man, I know that's hard, guys. I know it's hard. I'm just checking for a couple more messages. I'm going to end this shortly, guys. If you have anything that's like pressing, you really want to ask, drop it in the chat. And if I don't get to it, you can always email me at reagan@redeemingproductivity.com. I'll do my best to get back to you with an answer. So I'll tackle these last few messages and then we'll end it here. But did want to remind you guys who are still on about that deal. If you're interested in checking out the Redeeming Productivity Academy, we have a special going on today. If you join by the end of today, you'll get this free hardcover Waypoints Goal Planner. It helps you with quarterly planning, with goals. You can use it for your gift goals this summer. $38 value. You'll get it for free if you join our academy on any plan, monthly, annual, doesn't matter. And once you sign up, you get an email that shows you how to redeem that and get that shipped right to you for free. Okay. That's all I'll say about that. All right, let's try this. Letitia asks, what does your Sabbath rest look like? Does it change, and should it change for us in the summer? This has all been so helpful. Thank you. Oh, praise God. Glad it's been helpful. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, just cards on the table. Sabbath rest is something I've been working on. I'm not a Sabbatarian by conviction, like that we're under the law of the Sabbath. I don't think that we are under that. But I do think, I guess I'm just putting this out there publicly, I do think it is something Christians should take more seriously and be more intentional about, how you actually spend your Sabbath. And so for me, I'm trying to get better at this. And so obviously a lot of it, I believe, I I treat it like the Lord's Day. That's sort of my conviction, that it's not Saturday for Christians, that we think more about some of the Sabbath principles as they apply to Sunday, since the resurrection of Jesus. But a lot of that involves being at church and spending lots of time in fellowship. It involves having some prep time the Saturday before, making sure that the house cleaning tasks, some of those things that need to get done on the weekend just because the week's busy, happen on Saturday, so that Sunday can be more clear. And then a lot of it involves family time, often with extended family or even just my immediate family, and just trying to do stuff that's enjoyable and restful. Very frequently, that's when we'll have people over for a lunch or dinner for a hospitality type thing. And again, I think that's high quality leisure. I think it's enjoyable. And so we're not like meticulous about like, I don't, flip a light switch or anything. That's not how I see the Sabbath as applying to New Testament believers. But the focus is on rest from labor, right? So 6 days shall you labor and the seventh is the Lord's. That principally is what I'm trying to aim at, is I'm not doing work. Actually, I don't check email. That's a really practical thing. I don't check email on Sundays. I don't do work stuff. Like even the book project, which is sort of occupying my mind right now, I will jot down an idea if I have it, but I'm not sitting here working on it, trying to squeeze in extra hours. I try to focus it on rest. Hopefully that's helpful. Oh, Jazz, glad that was helpful. Merrick asks, this is the last question I'm going to answer, guys, and then we'll cut out. He asks, what goals should I prioritize the summer before starting university? I would just try to get your ducks in a row. I see King Chicken below. Get your chickens in a row. Get your ducks in a row. I would be thinking about prep type stuff. So I think it is a time to, enjoy this rest before a season of university. You're going to be busy once the fall kicks in. But getting sort of a plan of action together. How are you going to manage your commitments? What kind of schedule are you going to keep? That kind of stuff. If you want a useful article on this, go to redeemingproductivity.com and look for spiky schedule, smooth schedule. And you can rewind if you want to hear that again. Spiky schedule, smooth schedule on Redeeming Productivity. Just search for that in the search bar. It's a strategy that I used for getting through school, about taking my syllabi, looking ahead, kind of plans you can make. I think that'll be some practical actions you can take this summer that'll help make the fall at university a bit more manageable. Well, appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming. Hope this was helpful. And if you're interested in check out the Academy, go to redeemingproductivity.com/academy. And if you sign up before the end of the day, you can get that that hardcover Waypoints planner for free. My gift to you. And pray that you guys have a productive and a restful summer, and that let the Lord use us, because our aim here, whether we're here or in heaven, it's always going to be the same. It's to glorify him. It's to please him. So let's do that this year. All right. All for the glory of God. Thanks, guys. Take care.